little series while my kids are, one's asleep and one is with his dad. And so I've just realized I don't have my earpods on, so hopefully you can still hear me. And so this is ages 18 months to 3 years. And so I have almost 16-month-old, and I have an almost 2-year-old, almost 3-year-old. And I feel like when I read up about other parenting advice and other people discussing the 18-month stage, I feel like my second son is already in that stage for a lot of it. And so I feel like I've done it twice now, so I can see what's really working. And so the main thing that I will say about this stage is, and I've got my notes here, so if I look down, I'm just looking at my notes, is consistency. I try not to pack too much into their day at this time so that I can keep consistency with them. So implementing things like sitting at the table and eating. My little one is still, making a lot of mess, but teaching him, you sit down, you stay down, you eat your meal, and then you can hop down and do whatever you need to do, make sure you're clean. Whereas my almost 3-year-old, he is happy to sit down, and he climbs sometimes. Sometimes he will say he doesn't want to eat the meal or won't eat the meal. He's going through a stage where he thinks everything is spicy, which my husband does put quite a bit of spice in things, so there is that aspect. But because we keep things really consistent with food as well, we don't have a lot of issues with that. Also, I found it very interesting that I overheard a conversation of, oh, my kids will only eat this and won't eat anything else. And a lot of it was really like junk food based. And we've really avoided all of that. If our kids see donuts, I will make donuts for them, and I'll just help them know that, well, we don't really eat that because that might hurt your tummy. It can hurt people's tummies. And so they're learning, to eat what they like, but it's better to know what's in it and come from a really healthy place of eating. So I don't want to deprive them, because I know a lot of people go one or the other way, where they deprive their children of stuff, and so that child later on then goes and eats all of that food, and that becomes its own thing. And also some go the opposite way and just let them have whatever they want. And so I'm doing a little bit of just, they're allowed to have it, but we'll either find the cleanest, healthiest version, or we'll make it at home. And my kids love to cook. So we're navigating through that. We've just had Halloween, and my kids got their own. They enjoyed the aspect of decorating and all of that stuff. So bringing that to the forefront, and not all the sugar and all of that sort of stuff. So because my kids have a really good natural palate, they're not always asking me for everything. Like if they see something like a donut, I'll just say, we'll make that at home, and they're happy to just walk past it. Where I've seen other kids seeming to get something, especially in this stage of children from 18 months to 3 years. And also they're happy to, here in Australia, when you go to our local shopping centre, they give you free kids fruit. So that's the kids they get excited because they get their piece of fruit when we go to the shops, and so they're not asking me to buy everything for them. And they will get treats here and there. I also don't limit them. Sometimes when we go to the park and stuff, someone else will have the food, and I won't limit my kids to that. If my kids want it, they'll try it. And just keeping that nice balance at this stage, but definitely being very consistent with them and making sure that, yeah, for me, each meal is nutritious, so that if they have something with someone else, such as my mother, it's not the end of the world either. Just keeping that really healthy taste in their mouth, and not convenience. I don't see the point of having kids if you're just doing everything for them out of convenience. I know that people are busy and all of that, which is fair, and that's a whole nother thing. But for me, this is like my priority, because I noticed that their brain and their moods are very affected by food. So that's my number one thing. And so yeah, very consistent in everything, like we need to put our shoes on before we go out, or whatever it is, we need to put our seatbelts on, just making sure they know everything consistently. And our day goes pretty consistently too. I can imagine being someone who every day is very different. And so I like to incorporate that, and having quiet time and nap times, and we have the same bedtime. So there's not this, fighting your kids at this age to do something. They often call this the terrible twos. I like to call it the terrific twos, because they actually, my youngest really has it now. His own personality is really starting to come out, and they're actually very different. One is like the sun, and one is like the moon, I like to say, or night and day in a lot of ways. But yeah, I think it's a wonderful stage. My almost 3-year-old is he's just all light and shiny, and he goes up and talks to people and shows them things. And yeah, so I'm loving this age for both of them, even though my youngest I think he's developmentally in that 18 months, even though he's at the 16 months point. But yeah, with him, I make sure naps are very consistent. My almost 3-year-old, I still do my best to give him a nap every day, but he won't necessarily take the nap. So sometimes we do one day on, one day off. And yeah, they need very clear boundaries, and they need to know why. So blanket rule: we don't hit, we don't bite, we don't punch, we don't scratch, only if it's the most, rare of circumstance. We're a very safe family. We don't go into unsafe environments, but these things are very important, and we must, say sorry. And my kids like to, if they've done something, they like to kiss each other better. And teaching them the boundaries of, like, we don't just kiss random strangers, because my son has gotten really has seen a child really upset and has tried to go and kiss that child to make them feel better. But it's teaching them, all of that stuff as well. And yeah, so I've also found, I discussed this in one of my other videos, that children really learn best when they know why. So an authoritarian parent is someone who says, do as I say. Authoritative is, sorry, I always get these two mixed up. I've got a bit of dyslexia. But one is do as I say, and the other one is do as I say because, and you give them the reasoning why. in this below, in the description, I'll write the right ones. But I really say to them and explain, and some people might believe that kids aren't ready for this, but the more that they start from a really young age, biting hurts, and people won't want to play with you if you're biting, and that sort of thing has really helped. And I started this since they were born, really explaining, well, you have to stay with daddy because mummy's going to do something, or daddy's not leaving you, he's going to work, all of these reasons. And so they start to implement in their mind. And yeah, it's a really big one for me, is the why. And then they can explain it to each other, to the two children, which is really, like, my almost 3-year-old is saying to his younger brother, like, we don't do that. That's not kind, and that sort of stuff, which is awesome. So I don't have to keep being the one that's saying it. And this is really a stage that I feel you do have to repeat things over and over and over. So patience and understanding that they're learning, and each stage is a really good stage. And I always think the best of my children. Like, they're not doing this to annoy me, they're doing it because they're learning. It is for this stage. Another note I have is, do not let them divide and conquer. So I think it's been about 6 months now where my older son is saying I will say no to something, and then he'll go to his dad and be like, or vice versa. And so you do really need to be on the same page about things, because this is when they're learning that if something is inconsistent, that they can use that to their advantage. And so you don't want them to be able to. So this might be sitting down with whoever is in there. So if it's like the other parent, if it member, whoever's spending time with them, really being on the same, so that they're not learning that they can get their own way, and learning how to, I guess, manipulate. They're probably the first stages of human manipulation. And so we want to teach them that they can't use people against each other. Well, not in this circumstance. I'm not sure if there's actual circumstances that that's a good thing. And also, another thing that I practice is teaching them a lot of things over and over at home, and then allowing them to go into an environment to practice it. So if it's sharing, learning to share at home, understanding what sharing means, and then taking them out to the park and practicing that, or going over to someone else's house, or whatever it is, and being there to encourage them to practice it, because they need to have both. And also, as much as possible, and we're all human, and we just need to keep calm as parents, and really understand that they are really trying to learn. And I mean, my patience is tested sometimes, but I do as much as I can. And I've taught my kids to breathe. My son said to me the other day, "Mommy, just breathe." And that was really encouraging, and really, like, I felt, like a super mom. And so when there's tantrums, or they're not getting their own way, my older son copied his youngest son of my youngest son getting stuck in a small space, and he had watched him do it and he saw him cry, but he still decided he was going to do the same thing. And the best way to help him through that was just to hold him and give him a cuddle and explain to him that, well, that's why we don't do that. You saw your brother do it and then you decided you were going to do it, which basically means I've learned that my son is someone who is probably going to have to try things. He's not going to listen or view someone else doing it. He's going to have to try it for himself to learn that, whoops, that hurts. Hopefully it won't be with anything that is too extreme. Have to look at that one and encourage him in the best ways around that one. But yeah, tantrums, can be a lot of tantrums at this age, and there's a fine line between, and I taught them this very young, ouch, like I hurt myself, I need a cuddle, as opposed to I'm having a tantrum because I want my own way. So ouch means it's a cuddle and you're okay, as opposed to I'm on the floor crying because I want something, which would involve if they're in a safe place for me just to walk away. I can always see my children, so yeah, just gently walking away and not encouraging behavior, because I have seen where everything has become heightened because the parents are encouraging them to continue being upset and having that tantrum. So it's a very fine line between, yeah, that. And there is also a difference between oops, I did something, I bumped my head, and actually being hurt as well, and helping them understand the difference, because otherwise, as I just had a tap on my head, which doesn't really need much consoling, is a whoops, and an ouch is more like I fell down and really hurt myself. So I do help them to understand their own emotions and what they're feeling. My 3-year-old, almost 3-year-old, and I are going through a stage of what can you hear? And so at the moment, if he hears something, he'll be like, what's that sound? And so fortunately, most of the time I've heard it as well. And so being able to teach your children, like, they like to be warm and cozy, so they love very tactile feeling, blankets and pillows, and so they know that that feeling is cozy. And teaching them things like, you're crying right now because you're tired, and or are you thirsty? And they do this thing where they rub their belly and they say they're hungry. So they're understanding the emotion behind what they're doing. It's not just a blanket, you're crying, this is annoying, stop. It's really helping them understand why they're crying. I think a lot of parents, not even parents, just people, aren't able to emotionally regulate themselves because they can't actually identify what they're feeling. So I'm doing that as early as possible, and it also helps them snap out of tantrums and being upset really quickly when it's just not necessary. Otherwise, there's the moments that they do need to know that they're safe and that they're held. So finding that nice point as well. So yeah, as I said, removing attention from the tantrum. When it's just a tantrum, they want something. So my kids' tantrums are very short-lived. There's also this stage where I saw with my first son where I'm not exactly sure why they're doing it. I think it's something about learning the distance between things and how things affect them and what they feel like, where they'll just like bang their head on the floor or on something else. And so we've been able to overcome that really quickly with our second son by teaching him when he's upset to we just walk away from that tantrum. We don't really engage in it, teaching him that that's self-harm, that that hurts, and that we don't hurt ourselves or others. And another huge thing we've taught them is breathing. So it's never too young to teach your children just to breathe and refocus and just take some big breaths. I often hear my almost 16-month-old just walking around doing big, deep breaths. And I always praise him for doing that because I think that's a really important skill. And teaching them all about their needs and, use or food or sleep or some calm time, and teaching them what those different needs are. The other one, about toilet training. First son, I wanted to start him toilet training at 18 months. Some people believe this is too early. Some people believe this is too late. My grandmother had suggested that I actually get a potty where they can sit on it and have something to play with, and do that for after every meal or every drink. And she started at when my mum and her brothers were 6 months old. So there's lots of theories when to start. We were going through COVID, and the toilet that would allow my son to actually sit there and stay there never arrived. So I waited. I got him a little potty, and you can take the seat off, and then we put it on our toilet. And so the method that I used was actually the Montessori method, which is just encouraging them to understand what's happening. And so having that potty there from a young age, and then just allowing him to be interested in it, coming to the toilet, and all of that sort of stuff. And so it was a slow progression. At 2.5, we actually were ready to do real toilet training, and I can go more into this in another video, but that was when I was ready, because when he was 18 months old, I was pregnant, and it was just too much at the time. I asked someone I know when she was going to toilet train her son, and she said because it had been cold, she was putting it off. So there can be personal reasons for putting it off, and I just implement it slowly. My almost 16-month-old has his own undies, and he likes to put those on, and he's just started wanting to actually sit on the toilet. And so we never really did the potty with him. We just went straight to, do you want to sit on the toilet seat? So that's a big one. That takes a lot of patience, a lot of time, and there's lots of theories of thought out there, but that is something to expect during this stage. For me personally, I think I've said this before, I couldn't have, say, a 3-year-old still in nappies. For me personally, that just didn't seem right. For other people, that might be normal. And there's other things that I've seen for me, like kids during this 18-month to 3-year stage still have their dummies, gagas, whatever you want to call it, bottles, and other things like that, where for me, giving the child dependence and also not giving them something that is like it's not an addiction, but it's something they have to feel safe. Whereas I'm teaching my children, you know, safety is inside of you. You're here and safe because you have your parents. We live a safe life, and that sort of. So I think that's all I can think of for the moment to share with you about this stage. Thank you for being with me, and if you would like to watch any of the other stages I've shared about, that would be in my other videos. And also thank you for being here and watching. If you want to follow my journey and my information, please like and subscribe. But that is all for me now. Thank you.